When Moses made it across the Reed Sea and into the wilderness, he was met with a whole new challenge. Legions of Israelites were looking to him for answers about everything in their lives. As the leader of this newly formed people, as the sole conduit to God, Moses had an exceptional responsibility. He not only had to physically lead this often disagreeable people through a barren wilderness, he also had to completely reformat their social thinking. He had to bring them from slavery to freedom, from a people living under cruel oppression for centuries to a people learning to work together to build a new civilization. At first, Moses shouldered this burden completely on his own. One can imagine his main model for leadership came from having grown up in the court of Pharaoh, the autocratic god king of Egypt. Moses sat morning to night, hearing even the most minor of disputes between Israelites and deciding their cases by consulting God. But lucky for him, Moses' father-in-law, the Midianite priest Yitro, stepped in. He said to Moses, "The thing that you are doing is not good. You will surely wear out both yourself and the people, for the thing is way too heavy for just you. You will not be able to do it alone. You must stand between the people and God, and it shall be you who will bring the matters to God. And you shall teach them concerning the statutes and the laws. You shall search out from all of the people chiefs to rule under you, and they shall judge the people at all times, and so every great matter they shall bring to you, and every small matter they themselves shall judge. If you will do this thing, and God so commands you, you will be able to stand, and this people will come to its place in peace." In short, Yitro, claiming that his idea was God's commandment, laid out to Moses exactly what was to happen in the coming chapters at Mount Sinai, the most sacred moment in all of Jewish history, the revelation of the Torah. To put a finer point on it, the defining moment for the particularist Jewish covenant with God was designed by a foreign priest. The rabbis of old were quite ambivalent about Yitro, especially due to his ancestry and the many problems the Israelites of the Torah end up having with the Midianites. But it is impossible to ignore Yitro's positive role in this story. According to Louis Ginsberg's mashup of midrashim, traditional Jewish tales elaborating on the Torah, Moses begged Yitro to join the Israelites on their journey. But Yitro demurred and returned to his people, the Kenite tribe of Midianites, with stories of the God of Moses, the miracle of the sea, and the great salvation of the people Israel from their slavery in Egypt. In sharing this story, Yitro's descendants too became carriers of their own Torah and were granted a parallel covenant to the Jewish people, tied to us in our historical joys, but separated from us in our tragedies. And this covenant, this reward for Yitro, is commemorated in the fact that our Torah portion this week is named for him. This kind of exchange of ideas and practices is foundational to the Jewish story. Not only in this instance, but throughout our history, we have borrowed from and shared with those cultures around us, allowing us to continue to develop and remake our traditions into forms meaningful for each new era. An earlier Reform generation saw this trend as well, with the prolific Rabbi Kaufman Kohler writing, "Formerly, the ceremonies were to be observed as divine command. For us today, they must have an intrinsic value in order to be of binding force." I agree with Rabbi Kohler in spirit, but the story of Moses and Yitro shows us that, in fact, the earliest form of Jewish ceremony was one focused on intrinsic value, irrespective of its source. The root of our tradition is cultural interchange, an exchange of good ideas here between Moses and Yitro, and a bridge built between disparate peoples. Rather than a parochial quest for personal preservation, the ground for the Torah's revelation is ecumenicism. In the end, this is the long-awaited dream that the Jewish people have been holding on to for millennia. Our experiences of otherness and acceptance, our experiences of cultural privilege and cultural disadvantage have led us once and again to realize that the way into the true promised land across the river is to dream a world of equality, of openness, and of meaningful exchange between peoples. Let us not forget that the path to Torah was paved by Yitro the Midianite. The path to King David, one of the greatest leaders of our history, was paved by his ancestor, the first convert, Ruth the Moabite. And the path to the palace and temple in Jerusalem, still a shining beacon of hope for us, was paved by the Phoenician king and architect Hiram of Tyre. These dreamers and those of our ancestors that welcomed their dreams into our own tradition are the forerunners to our allies, friends, loved ones, and family of diverse backgrounds today. They wake us from our parochial slumber, bring us new perspectives, and help us to renew our covenant with the freshness of each new era. Let us, like Moses, open our hearts and ears to these dreamers, waking our souls to the possibility of the new future of ecumenicism, of peace, and of love for our neighbors. Shabbat Shalom.